Christians are always seeking for some kind of a manifestation or wonder by God on their behalf, so that they may believe that he will keep the promises that he made to all those who believe and put their faith and trust in him. Unbelievers, in like manner, desire to see some display or manifestation of God's power in order for them to believe that he simply exists. In both cases, for the unbeliever as well as the believer, both who require for their personal satisfaction some divine intervention so that they can become believers in God's existence, if you're an unbeliever, or in God's favorable providence for those of you who are believers. Now we see in 2 Kings, in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 5, the heathen general of the Syrian army, Naaman. And Naaman, in spite of all his success, he contracts leprosy. Naaman has leprosy. And one of his aides tells him that there's a prophet in Israel who can perform the miraculous, who could bring healing to Naaman, who could improve the quality of Naaman's life. And his aide tells him, there's a prophet in Israel who has tapped in to the power of God, and he can help you, Naaman. So Naaman, taking the advice of one of his aides, he begins to head toward Israel. And as he was some ways off, Elisha, the prophet who succeeded Elijah, while Naaman was still a short time off, after he had received message that Naaman was coming, he sends a message back. A message telling Naaman to stop by the river Jordan, step into the water, and dip 7 times, and you will be healed of your leprosy. And Naaman, the man with leprosy, had the audacity to complain and to challenge the prophet of Israel, because he didn't like the methods that was prescribed to him in order to receive his healing. Elisha told Naaman to go dip into the river Jordan 7 times. Just dunk yourself 7 times in the water and your leprosy would be gone. But no, Naaman wanted a grand display. He wanted a big show because he saw himself as somebody great, even though he was a leper. Now, he complained at the simplicity of the directive. He didn't like what he was asked to be compliant with because he felt that he was more important. He felt that he was somebody that demanded a great display of power, a great display with grandeur. And Naaman was furious with the prophet. And he said, why would I go dip into these filthy waters here in Israel when we have better bodies of water back at home in Syria? Why would I dip in these filthy waters? We have better water at home. Now listen, somehow Naaman lost sight of what was intended to be happening. He was supposed to be going to meet this prophet who had a relationship with a God who could heal and who could do the miraculous. And so when the prophet Elisha told Naaman to dip in the river Jordan 7 times and he would be healed, Naaman did not like that. And he pointed to the waters itself. He pointed to the waters itself, not paying attention to the fact that if water was the issue, if water was the element or attribute which could provide for his healing, he could have got that back in Syria. When God uses a medium through which he imparts some good gift, the essence of that which heals or brings some big benefit to the recipient has nothing to do with the medium itself, which is simply the agent of the real source, which is God himself. Naaman is in effect saying God didn't have to use this filthy river Jordan water. He could have just used the water back in Syria, and that would have sufficed for my healing. But Naaman did not understand, but he soon would. Because his aide, who was a wise man, said to Naaman, he said, Master, if the prophet of Israel had asked you to do something more complex, might you have done it? Yet he only asked a simple thing, to dip 7 times in the river Jordan and you would be healed. Why would you turn around with your leprosy and go back home with your leprosy when an opportunity to have it removed by responding to a simple request would have remedied your problem, would have changed your life? And that was all you had to do. But no, Naaman wanted a performance. God is not a circus monkey. All of you who are listening to the sound of my voice now, listen to what I'm telling you. God is not a circus monkey and has nothing to prove to you. All you have to do to find peace in your soul, to find joy in your life, to have the guilt of sin removed from your life, you have one simple thing to do. God tells us to believe. All Naaman had to do when Elisha communicated to him to dip into the river Jordan 7 times and his leprosy would go away. In like manner, all you believers have to do to be assured that God will keep his promises to those who put their faith and trust in him, all you have to do is believe. All you have to do is be faithful. Sinners, unbelievers, beware. Beware. For you wait and expect and are always taunting Christians and mocking because you say there's no evidence that God exists. And because of your blindness, you don't know that the only way you can know that God exists is to believe. If you can turn to Christ and ask him to change your life, to help you with your unbelief, it is then and only then you will believe. Otherwise, sinners, beware. The wrath of God is coming for you unless you submit and believe. Stop waiting for some big show for God to put on. God put on the greatest show on earth when Christ went to that cross, died, and was buried, and was raised again for the justification of sinners, of those who put their faith and trust in God for redemption, to avoid the wrath of a just and holy God at the end of whatever age God decides he will return to collect on the debt that man owes him for their sins against him. Naaman wanted a big show, and God told him to just dip in the river Jordan. Sinners, Christians, you all want some big show to prove that God is who he is. But all you will get is that still small voice that says one important thing: believe. Just believe. Believe by faith. You will know the truth, and it will set you free. You don't need some big song and dance. God is not a circus monkey. What you need to do is to sit back, recognize you are a sinner, believe, and just believe. Call out to God, beg for his forgiveness, and believe. May God bless you all for this short and brief little message that I want to communicate to you. May God bless you all. And this is the Bible Provocateur, Jonathan Eubanks.